boy you see on your screen is Ravi Teja. He's carrying a load of bricks in his young arms to fight Hyderabad's killer potholes on the roads. Exasperated with the city's increasing pothole deaths, little Ravi had had enough. Of bricks and nerves of steel, Ravi is shaming netas and the civic bodies of Hyderabad, lifting building material himself to repair potholes near his home. As netas stand by watching crumbling civic amenities in Hyderabad, this young man is shaming them, embarrassing them and setting an example for all, showing them how it's done. Days after tensions began on the India-China border, Beijing continues to breathe fire. India today has now accessed a video way back from 2015 showing our troops facing off with the Chinese. But that's only background to give you a sense of what it's like on the China-India border. This only days after a 2017 video surfaced showing our soldiers facing off with the Chinese at Doklam. As China warns India that this is not 1962, is India really ready for the Red Army? And more importantly, is there a way out of the current standoff that continues to intensify at the border?
To travel our area. Yeah. This is not your area.
This is not your area.
No. This is our area. This is our area. And you are doing recce, patrolling your area. So many people, only 10 people can do. 10 people can do recce. 10 people can do patrolling.
Why so many? Why so many?
Not so many soldiers.
An open verbal duel.
Commander, the line is very clear. It's not clear. It's clear. Yeah. You are crossing.
This is Indian territory. You are in Indian territory.
Listen.
Are soldiers confronting the Chinese army?
No road. So you making road at 30R, you making road.
This video from 2015 is yet another proof of China's dirty tricks, of how the dragon has always wanted to sneak in to others' territory.
You know good people, come to the house.
In 2015, it was a verbal argument. In 2017, our soldiers were left with no option but to jostle, to literally push back Chinese soldiers. And while the tensions at the Indo-China border are far from easing down, Beijing has simply refused to back down on Doklam Plateau.
उनका जो मकसद है हमको लग रहा है कि इंडिया पर प्रेशर डालने के लिए कि किसी तरह से भी ये जितना भी बॉर्डर एरिया है इस बॉर्डर एरिया को सेटल करने के लिए जल्द से जल्द वो लोग भी चाहते होंगे.
They speak of how China continues with its aggression at the border. They do not come with the required and requisite number of officials or Jawans who need to come for patrolling. They come in huge numbers.
Not just this, China is slowly turning the entire standoff to a diplomatic face-off. On 30th of June, Defence Minister Arun Jaitley had asserted that the India of 2017 is different from what it was in 1962.
हम तैयार हैं 1962 की वो याद दिला रहे हैं.
देखिए मैं इसके याद दिलाना है तो वो 62 की स्थिति अलग थी, 2017 का भारत और है.
Responding to this, China's foreign ministry said that even China is not the same as it was way back in 1962. China has said that the India-China-Bhutan tri-junction lies at Mount Gipmochi, while India and Bhutan say that the tri-junction lies far south. And it is in this region that China is constructing the road, triggering opposition from both India and Bhutan.
It is quite sad that these two big leaders of Asia can't come together and engage in each other and solve problems to have a much more open, optimistic future for the whole region.
While China continues its lies and more skeletons continue to tumble out of its closet, India has made it clear there will be no giving in.
No. This is our area. This is our area.
With Gaurav Sawant, Geeta Mohan and Anand Krishnan, Bureau Report, India Today.
So many people, only 10 people can do.
I'm joined now on 5 Live this evening by 3 journalists who've been looking and scrutinizing the current standoff more than anybody else. Sandeep Unithan of India Today magazine, Anand Krishnan, our Beijing correspondent, and Sudhiranjan Sen, who's been looking at the military aspect of it and has been in touch with the Indian military as well. Sandeep, I want to start with you. It's been days since this standoff began. You know, very, very aggressive things have been said by both sides, unusually so. It's reached a point where people are beginning to wonder, is this a military face-off? Has it become simply a diplomatic standoff between the two countries? What's the way out? What are you hearing, Sandeep?
Well, that's right, Shiv. This is probably the first time that China has upped the ante, so to speak, on the border dispute with India. Because if you remember the last time around that we had a standoff in 2014,
yes,
when President Xi Jinping was in India with Prime Minister Modi, that was a time we had a 2-week standoff, and most of the hard line was actually coming from New Delhi, and China was actually pretty quiet about the standoff. It lasted for 2 weeks, and they finally disengaged. But here for the first time we are seeing a very aggressive and assertive China that is actually that has been issuing a raft of statements from Beijing over the last 1 week, and you know, presenting photographs and maps, you know, as evidence to suggest that India is the one that's transgressing. So it's very really a game of you know, to see who blinks first, and China has really pushed us into a corner on this, and it remains to be seen how the foreign ministry is going to react to this one.
Anant, what has changed so much? You know, as Sandeep pointed out, we've seen standoffs of this kind in the past where China has been, you know, conspicuously quiet, measured, moderate. This time, there is a very, you know, a conspicuous belligerence and aggression to counter everything that either India is saying or is being reported in the press. What's changed, Anant?
I think Sandeep's absolutely right. This is, from what we're seeing from China, it's qualitatively different from Depsang and Chumar in 2013 and 2014.
Yes.
And the Chinese are saying why they see this is different is this is not on the disputed line of actual control. And as far as they see it, this didn't happen in Indian territory. This happened in what they say is Chinese territory, and what Bhutan says is Bhutanese territory. So that's why I think they've taken such a very public posture, releasing photographs, maps. And today's latest statement actually bringing the mention of Nehru for the first time, saying that Nehru himself acknowledged the 1890 treaty. So China's position is very different, and they keep highlighting the fact that, well, this is not an India-China dispute, so what was the Indian army doing there?
Right.
So that's the line that they are taking, which sort of explains their very public belligerence, which is something, frankly, I have never seen in my 7-8 years here in Beijing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's conspicuous. You know, you've reported from there for 7-8 years, and you say you've never seen that. It's actually really surprising how it's an almost a bit of a running commentary to what's really happening. Belligerence that we've never really seen before as far as this narrative is concerned. But what's really happening on the ground? Sudhiranjan's been in touch with the army as well. It's the army that was involved in that standoff. What is the current situation, Sudhi? You know, we've seen the photographs that were released by China. We've seen a spate of videos that have done the rounds. What is the current situation on the ground according to the army?
Well, to begin with, the military this time is completely quiet. I mean, contrary to what we used to see earlier in 2013, 14 and previous standoffs where, you know, both China used to be quiet, India used to be quiet, except, you know, a little bit of a statement here and there. This time, there is nothing coming out officially from the Indian military or the Indian government, except one statement that we have seen from the MEA.
Yes.
That said, what we are getting to hear is that the Indian troops have dug in. There have been reinforcements that have been sent in to help or to strengthen the troop deployment that is there.
Yes.
And the decision is very, very clear that it is China which has to first move back. or till then there will be no movement back or pull back of the Indian troops. Most likely what we are going to see is we are going to see another flag meeting in a couple of days' time, and that is when we can expect the tempers to come down and the thing being negotiated over, by the local commanders over the table. Shiv.
Sandeep, for all the very belligerent things that have been said over the last few days, including, India is not what it used to be in 1962, etc., etc. There's a lot of Bollywood language going on between the two countries, which is very unusual, that we've seen for the last few days. Keeping that in view, isn't it also true, and I want to say this because there's so much going out there on social media, on other channels, isn't it a very, very remote, practical impossibility for anything really major to happen on the border between India and China? Isn't that true?
That's right, Shiv. And I want to quote what General Bipin Rawat said in an interview. And he was, I feel he was quoted out of context because the statement of his where he says that India is ready for a two-front war, it needs to be seen in its entirety. The statement he very clearly mentions when he was asked about the preparation for a two-front war, the general says that yes, we are prepared for a two-front war, but there are other effective mechanisms available to diffuse an adverse situation.
Yes.
Where he's very clearly hinting at diplomacy as being the first line of defense and not the military. So in this case also, I mean, while the armies are locked in a standoff on the border, let's not forget that Indian diplomacy is at work 24/7 to ensure that there is a climb down with no side losing face, and this is something that we might actually see when Prime Minister Modi meets President Xi in Hamburg on the 7th.
Anand, this is a question that I've always been curious about, so I'm going to ask you. It's a personal question from me. You're an Indian journalist. You're based in Beijing right now, where all these very aggressive things are being said by both sides. What's your experience covering this story from Beijing? Does it become more difficult at times like this? I mean, we've all heard about how it is being a journalist in China, but at times like this, when things are belligerent, volatile, what's your experience covering this story from there?
It's a good question, Shiv, but it's a bit of cognitive dissonance because every day we go to the Foreign Office and we get a barrage of pretty aggressive statements.
Yeah.
But it seems that given the fact that China is such a apoliticized society, given that it's a one-party country and most people just don't want to get involved with politics, on the ground, I still get more questions on Dangal, the movie that's still playing in China, and I haven't got a single question on the boundary yet. So it's very strange that you're getting this very official, aggressive posture in the state-run media as well.
Yeah.
But I'd say the most of it's not like Japan, which is something that really is very emotive for many Chinese people. India isn't in the same category.
Yeah.
So every time you see a standoff with Japan, it's something that Japanese journalists feel every day. But fortunately, I think the Indian press aren't in that same boat yet.
Absolutely. Okay. It's good to know that. And I'm sure there's going to be a book somewhere ahead, 7 to 8 years in China, through all these ups and downs. Definitely a book at the end of that. Thanks so much, Sandeep and Anand, for joining us. Well, you've heard of China's attempted encirclement strategically as far as India is concerned. You've seen what's happening on the border with Sikkim. Well, it's also happening out at sea. And India today has access to exclusive information now. And it's not just on land. China continues to provoke at sea as well. India today has now accessed exclusive bits of information that the Indian Navy has now warned of increased Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean. China has deployed a submarine in the Indian Ocean region. The Yuan-class conventional diesel-electric submarine is the 7th submarine to be deployed in the area. Indian assets picked up the submarine entering the Indian Ocean region recently. India Today's Shudhi Ranjan Sen has accessed exclusive information about the presence of Chinese submarines. Let's go straight across to him. Shudhi, detail for us this. China's intentions, its maritime intentions, aggressions as far as the Indian Ocean, have been known for a while. We've seen Chinese submarines visiting Karachi as well in the past. What is this current situation that we've been able to find out about?
Well, I mean, as you are saying, Shiv, absolutely. I mean, we've been seeing Chinese footprints in the Indian Ocean region for some time. 2013-14 to be precise, when China sends in its first flotilla ostensibly for anti-piracy options. And then we see the submarines coming in. The interesting part is, I mean, it starts with the nuclear submarines coming in increasingly. We know at least that there have been 3 nuclear submarines that have been in this area. A Yuan-class submarine has come up. We have recently, the Indian Navy has been able to pick up its supply ship. Because it's a conventional submarine that is going, it is being tracked. The silver lining in this, while China is aggressively putting more ships, is the fact that we are also using our satellites, our long-time maritime surveillance platforms, and we keep on picking them. The net result is, while you saw, say 3 years ago, 3 ships maximum moving around in this area, today it is roughly around 14 ships. Now look at this in conjunction with the fact that they are also putting up a base in Djibouti.
Right.
And also if you look at Spratly Islands, where they have reclaimed land, and they're increasingly putting up military outposts which have runways, ability to harbor warships. So the big picture emerges, and which is that increasingly China is trying to be the dominant player in this region and trying to project power much ahead or much beyond what it had done a few years ago.
Sandeep, you study submarines very closely and submarine force levels. Obviously, the Indian Navy's submarine fleet, its strength, numbers, reach is way, way lower than what China has, or at least is known to have. What is the current sort of comparison, and what do you make of China's attempts to enter the Indian Ocean, project power, engage in sea denial, etc.? What is your sense of this?
Well, Shiv, China's submarine deployments in the Indian Ocean, which began in 2013, they are the iron fist inside the velvet glove of the One Belt, One Road. So China is demonstrating with these long-range deployments its ability to protect the One Belt, One Road.
Yeah.
And they have effectively positioned a submarine here. There's been one submarine at any given point since 2013. And what they're doing essentially is they are exploiting their platforms. These are all indigenously built submarines which are being, sent out to the over 6,000 kilometer long deployments. And they are not only, testing out their new equipment, but also the endurance and the training of their crews. So they're, in a sense, they're building up, an entire database of what it takes to operate at such long distances.
Yes.
And they have one of the largest nuclear submarine fleets in the region. And
absolutely.
They're growing at an incredible pace. They have something like 50 conventional submarines and between 12 and 14 nuclear submarines.
Yes.
And by these deployments, they have basically the signals on multiple levels. I mean, apart from the fact that they have the ability to project power into the Indian Ocean, there's this subtle signaling to India that the days of the Indian Navy's unchallenged deployments in the Indian Ocean might be coming to an end very soon.
It's an unmistakable message. We've heard successive chiefs of naval staff of India actually wonder about China's long-term intentions. And like you said, they're growing by leaps and bounds. They're inducting assets, by the dozen each year. So it's obviously a troubling prospect. You're going to see a more detailed version of Shruti Ranjan's report up ahead here on India Today. Thanks very much, Shruti and Sandeep, for joining us on 5 Live on these 2 big stories we've got today. Well, days after the US State Department designated Syed Salahuddin of the Hizbul Mujahideen as a global terrorist, the Hizbul boss has admitted on a Pakistan TV channel that he carried out attacks in India in the past. He even went on to say that he has many supporters in India and can carry out more attacks at his leisure. Salahuddin is the chief of the dreaded terror organization, the Hizbul Mujahideen, who last year threatened to turn the Kashmir Valley into a graveyard for Indian forces. He also leads the United Jihad Council, an amalgam of terror groups. The question is, can Pakistan still remain in denial after this brazen flaunting of Syed Salahuddin just days after he was designated a global terrorist by the President Trump administration?
If Salahuddin has made this admission, then it becomes incumbent upon India to energize the joint statement with the United States of America, designating him as a global terrorist and getting the US government to lean on Pakistan to arrest him and hand him over to India. This will become the litmus test of whether the joint statement means anything, Salahuddin's designation as a terrorist means anything, or it is mere rhetoric and shooting the breeze.
Sir, MH has been saying about Syed Salahuddin for a very long time. He's a US terror designate now. How does it really impact what India has been saying and what NI is investigating, and especially in regards with Hizbul Mujahideen?
As far as our stand is concerned relating to Syed Salahuddin, we have been saying for a very long time that he is directly involved in terrorist activities, organizing them and getting them executed in Indian territory. He has himself admitted that he is getting these attacks conducted in Indian territory and that he is getting finance from suspect sources.
The money is coming from Hawala route, the money is being pumped in from Pakistan. They are getting links to separatists. What about his links to separatists? How you've been also Jammu Kashmir former DG. So do tell us what's the link and how much of a probe has yielded results?
Well, as far as historical perspectives are concerned, there has been a substantial amount of evidence of Hawala transactions being used to finance terrorist and separatist activities in the valley. Certain cases have also been registered and investigated, and certain convictions have also been secured in the past. As far as the current situation is concerned, the matter is under detailed investigation by the NIA, and it has always been clear that there is a very significant nexus between the activities by terrorist groups and those of the separatist organization.
My last question, sir. The government has made it very clear to the NIA that they have an open hand, a free hand as far as dealing with separatist or even terror organizations itself is concerned?
Well, the NIA is an independent investigating agency, and the government does not in any way interfere with its functioning. They are a professional agency and they are conducting their investigations within the framework of the law. So I don't think that...
Can we see arrest in the coming few days?
The Tamil Nadu filmmakers are up in arms, and they've got very good reason. As the nation gets set to cope with GST, the Palanisamy government in Tamil Nadu has now rechristened entertainment tax as a local tax and levied a total of a whopping 58% tax on watching a movie. That's right, with 28% GST and 30% of this new local tax. The Tamil Nadu film fraternity is reeling and has now shut down over 1,000 theatres across the state in protest. And this during a hot, cinema-crazy summer season. Here's a report.
Closed gates. Deserted box office. Tamil Nadu's movie theatres in an abandoned state.
I'm outside Devi Theatre in Chennai, and as you can see, theatre is shut, and like this, over 1,000 theatres across Tamil Nadu are shut, protesting against the state government's corporation tax, the entertainment tax, which has been rechristened as corporation tax, which is a huge 30% tax. This over and above the GST of 28%. This has definitely affected the film industry.
The government's defense is clear. The entertainment tax is in accordance with the constitution. Local tax will be used for development, and the tax is not listed under GST. But movie makers are equally adamant, demanding to know why a local tax has been levied when GST is already being charged. Worse still, why is the movie industry being used as a backdoor for tax mechanism?
GST problem we have honored, we have to understand. But this problem, central government has to interfere and solve it. State government, just for the indirect benefits, they should not force us to do this.
If we go to the film industry as a whole, the huge black money available in Tamil Nadu is only in 3 sectors. One is politics, second is liquor, the third is the film.
Under fire, the EPS government claims that the decision to implement an additional 30% over 28% of GST was notified on the 28th of June. Movie makers say that they only found out about this on the 30th of June, hours ahead of the GST rollout. Kollywood has united to save the Tamil Nadu movie industry.
It's not right for me to speak alone. The whole industry is gathering together and they are going to speak together as one voice.
Who have been deprived of their staple movie diet.
At this point, the consumers actually realized in the last 2 days. I'm not here as a movie person, I'm here as a common person. And to me, I never thought about giving 120 rupees as a ticket price till yesterday. Then I realized, wait a minute, I've been paying tax on every tax-free movie for all these years. Nobody has really been on the side of the people. The so-called governments have not been siding with the people.
There are many who are worried about paying extra money for the tickets, but also the film producers and theatre owners are worried about GST mixed with entertainment tax. Will the government act is the big question now.
As Kollywood faces off with the EPS government, the larger question remains, is Tamil Nadu setting a precedent for other states to find a backdoor tax mechanism to beat the GST acts? With Priyamvada in Chennai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me live from Chennai is KC Palanisamy, leader of the ruling AIA-DMK in the state, which stands accused of dragging its feet and creating a situation where the Cinema Owners Association has been forced down its shutters. Also with us on the phone line is A. Saravanan of the DMK, the principal opposition party. Mr. Palanisamy, to you first. The Cinema Owners Association, the Chambers of Commerce are furious with the Palanisamy government in Tamil Nadu. They say that this is ridiculous. 58% tax is a bizarre situation to be in. They are not allowed to operate. Fans are suffering. Moviegoers are suffering. In one of the most cinema crazy, states in the country, this situation has been allowed to happen. What is the government's response, Mr. Palanisamy?
This entertainment tax should go. After the GST, there is no meaning again by this government to impose this entertainment tax.
Yeah.
And practically the government is not earning any revenue out of it. They provided a clause to give exemptions. That power is retained with the government. That will lead only for corruption and favoritism. And they will try to control the cinema industry indirectly. See, there is no doubt that this entertainment tax should be removed.
Okay.
But at the same time, the theatre owners are also, they are exorbitantly charging the consumers, the public. On the opening days, 100 rupees ticket are being sold at 500 rupees, or at times it's for 1000 rupees. So the theatre owners also has to be fixed by the government. Same so the eatables.
Okay.
There is a MRP, maximum retail price, but inside the theatres, it's 4 times or 5 times. A mineral water bottle, outside it is 10 rupees, but inside it is 30 rupees, 40 rupees, or whatever they say is the price. And the public are not permitted to carry of their own.
Okay.
So they also, it's not that the theatre owners are also not that clean. So they have to restrict all that. Even the parking charges, exorbitant parking charges. So it's not that they are also blameless. So they have to reduce the cost for the public in those areas.
So you're saying that actions have to come from both sides, not just the owners association, but also the Palanisamy government itself, which should do away with this entertainment tax. Mr. Saravanan, the DMK plans to take this issue up as well. It's already become a very, very big, hot political issue. What is the next step? Who is to blame? On whom does the onus lie? Does it lie on the Cinema Owners Association, the film industry, or the Palanisamy government?
Definitely it is on the Palanisamy government, Shiv. See, the concept of one nation, one tax means there should not be any other taxes. If you look at the other states, they have done away with entertainment
tax. That's right.
Yeah, but why the Tamil Nadu government is insisting? See, when the GST came into force, the state government's power to levy tax is gone.
Yes.
It's taken away by the amendment. So what they do is cleverly they pass this to the local bodies, which has got a constitutional protection. So thereby, see, the linchpin in this entire tax fiasco is they want to retain control over the film industry.
Right.
They have this concept of giving tax breaks.
Yes.
They want to make money in the tax breaks. The committee wants to they want to do favors, dole out favors to the people whom they know.
So this is just corruption in that case. Mr. Palanisamy, exactly. You are saying this entertainment tax should go, but the cinema owners should also be be checked by the government. Aren't those two separate issues, Mr. Palanisamy? By a principle, as Saravanan said, if the GST is there, then all these other taxes need to disappear. You cannot cleverly, put it under some corporation tax because you want protection. Isn't that plain and simple corruption by the Palanisamy government?
Yes, very, very much, because the government is not getting the real revenue out of it. They give the exemptions for the Tamil, the name of the film, if it is in the Tamil title. But there a lot of politics and favoritism is taking place. Ultimately, they give exemptions to all. Maybe at what cost? That lead to a lot of corruptions. And even I could challenge that this bill has been introduced only for the minister to collect money, for no other purpose.
This is
for no other purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Palanisamy, this is a faction of your very own party which you are currently, engaged in a kind of leadership battle with. You belong to the OPS faction and, that is clear. But the question now is, you do belong to the same party. At the end of the day, the people of Tamil Nadu are going to see this. They are watching this show. They're going to wonder why more pressure is not there on the Palanisamy faction, the EPS faction, to actually do something about this. This is a very big deal. The Tamil film industry is very powerful. It's very influential. You've got celebrities like Shankar, several others who've come out and spoken about this issue as well. The image of the state is going to take a hit as a result of this, Mr. Palanisamy.
I have conveyed this to the chief ministers, and they say that they would consider this, and I hope soon they would, they would, and they have to remove this tax. They will, eventually.
Mr. Saravanan,
at the same time, equally the theatre owners are not blameless.
Okay. No, there's nobody is saying the theatre owners are blameless, sir. Please don't mistake me for a moment also. I'm sure there are many things that the theatre owners also have to do, but it cannot be. The two things are definitely not linked. The tax that has come in means the other taxes have to disappear. There can be a separate process to crack down and regulate the cinema, owners industry itself. Mr. Saravanan, is the DMK planning to take this up in a bigger way? Because there doesn't appear to be a way out, at least in the immediate number of days.
Yeah, certainly. We are going to take it up in a big manner. We have decided to raise this issue. We want to bring a special motion regarding this in the assembly tomorrow. So all these things will happen. See, Mr. O. Pannirselvam cannot take the moral high ground by pointing the blame on the Edappadi Palanisamy government. They are there. If they say they oppose it, why are they not making it visible inside the assembly? As any statement given out by Mr. O. Pannirselvam. It has not happened. So it is just, they cannot take a stand based on convenience. They cannot take that moral high ground. Why can't Mr. Pannirselvam oppose it if he really feels that this will lead to corruption? And as rightly pointed out by you, if the government has the power to deal with any misdeeds of the theatre owners, they cannot tax this along with an illegal tax.
Absolutely. I want to bring in Priyambada, India Today's correspondent in Chennai as well, on this for a neutral view. Priyambada, where is this headed? Because like we've been saying, the people of Chennai and the state will be wanting to know, when is this stalemate going to end? When are the cinemas going to open so they can carry on with life and watch the movies they love? Is there a specific answer we can give them?
Well, absolutely, Shiv. I was able to hear only the first part of your question, but I can now tell, I kind of got a gist of what you're trying to say. See, this is going to take some time till at least the state government decides on probably the kind of money they want, the kind of revenue they want, and what kind of adjustment they can make, and how much the film industry is ready to relent. Because look at the neighboring states. The entertainment tax has been completely waived off. So in Tamil film industry also, the producers and theatre owners are demanding that it should be completely waived off. But however, what the government is making use right now is the divide within the film industry, where you have one set of film producers council fighting with another set of film producers. Theatre owners are not in good terms with the film producers. So there's a lot of confusion. Probably because of this, the government is also playing around trying to find out how much they can get, how much pound of flesh they can get out of this. That's why today Kamal Hassan, when he spoke to the media, he indirectly said we have to speak in a united voice and all of us should come together. That unity is probably missing in the film industry, which is leading to the chaos and which the state government is making use of. At the end of the day, film goer is affected because he has to pay.
Okay, Priyamada, we leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much to Mr. Saravanan and Palanisamy also for joining us on this debate. Its story is not over just yet, but we're shifting focus. We're going live to Israel because there is a government press conference that's currently on a day ahead of the arrival of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on that historic visit to Israel. Let's listen in.
But we also will be exchanging a joint statement between the two sides, which we've worked out, which basically encompasses everything that is on the table in the relations between Israel and India. Unfortunately, I can't give you a sneak preview of that because it'll be exchanged just on Wednesday, so we'll need a little bit of patience for that. I think what Director General Rotam said just a few moments ago is true. We've been gearing up for this visit now for many months. It's not something that's come down on us from today till tomorrow. We're very excited about it. We've gone through every moment of the program with a fine-tooth comb, and I hope that we'll be successful here in the Foreign Ministry and outside the Prime Minister's office as well in bringing it to fruition. Just two more points, if I might, before I pass the floor on to Danny. Just last week, the Israeli government passed a resolution governing the entire web of relations with India. This touches on all aspects of bilateral ties, the entire gamut, the spectrum of what governs relations between two countries: economics, space, science, innovation, technology, people to people, tourism, basically you name it, it's in it, including, of course, resources, funding. This is a very, very far-reaching resolution. We've had actually resolutions with other parts of the world, including China, Japan, Africa, and Latin America. But looking at all of those, I think this is by far and away the most wide-ranging and far-reaching of the resolutions taken, and I think something that will govern the roadmap of where we're moving forward in the weeks, months and years to come. I think, if I might, just, I don't know if you want to do it now. If we should do it now, Emmanuel, go through the program, or we should do that afterwards.
We'll start with the program.
Okay, so I'll just take something to drink. The program basically is covers a number of different aspects. Of course, the basic tenets are there, as we have with any major foreign visit. Yad Vashem, which those who don't know what it is, it's the Holocaust Memorial, the National Holocaust Memorial Center here in Jerusalem. The central linchpin of the entire 2 days in which he will be here, in which Prime Minister Modi will be here, will be the working session meeting and entire comprehensiveness of the two prime ministers sitting together. That will be on Wednesday morning. It will be about 4 hours long, including lunch, signing ceremony on the agreements, press statements, etc. The day before, when he arrives, when Prime Minister Modi arrives, which is tomorrow, as you heard earlier from the Director General, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he will be going to visit Floriculture technological center on the direction between the airport and Jerusalem. And there will be shown also technologies in the agricultural field by the Minister of Agriculture there as well. From there to Yad Vashem, and then a private one-on-one dinner with the Prime Minister in the evening. Wednesday morning, there will be a meeting calling on the President of Israel. And then, as I said, the main linchpin, the central aspect, which is the prime ministerial interaction on different levels in the morning. And from there, meeting with the leader of the opposition, he will be going from the leader of the opposition to a very large, as you may know, an Indian orchestrated event in Tel Aviv, meeting with the Indian community in Israel, something in the region of 4,000 people. It's actually, oh, you can see it, apparently you can see it. We really are technologically, I'm technologically challenged, but the ministry is technologically advanced. So there you can see, actually, those of you who've got good eyesight, can see what's written on there. That's really how the times will be broken down. As you can see, at 8 o'clock in the evening, there'll be a reception with representative. No, it's later. You have to go later than that. If you can press the later stage, whoever's pressing it. Go one stage. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll tell you what it is. They're going to Tel Aviv. They are going to be meeting with, as I said earlier, the members of the Indian community, about 4,000 people, and they'll be preceded by an Indian cultural program. And the two prime ministers will address that audience in the evening, and that'll be the end of Wednesday. Thursday, of course, is the most, well, not of course, but it is the most complex day. In the morning, the prime ministers will be flying by helicopter to Haifa in the north of Israel. There they will be visiting the cemetery of the fallen Indian soldiers in the First World War, which is a very beautiful thing to do. Both prime ministers will be there. They will be laying wreaths on the grave areas. There's two there. One is for the Hindu soldiers that gave their lives for you and our freedom, actually, and the other is for the Muslim soldiers of Indian Muslim soldiers at the same time, same period of time, of course, who also gave their lives so that all of us can live here in peace and welfare. From there, he will be traveling down by car, or they will be traveling down by car, excuse me. They will be traveling down by car from Haifa to the direction of Tel Aviv, and on the way there, they will be stopping, if I can see it there. Yes, there you see it, 11:30 in the morning, on a beach. It's a beach on the way down from Haifa to Tel Aviv, where will be shown an amazing Israeli technology, which is actually very suitable for many countries of the world, if I might say, including India, but not only India, which is a portable desalination center based on one car. And those of you who will be with him will be with them at the same time, and I do hope that all and more will be there. We'll see this amazing Israeli technology, which is really one of the most stupendous works of art, actually. There's no other word to call it, and you'll see it. It's a small car which transforms wastewater, seawater, mud water into drinking water within a period of seconds, based on the back of a car, on a buggy. From there, they will be both going to Tel Aviv, to the Dan Hotel in Tel Aviv. There will be a two-part economic session, very important economic session. First part will be showcasing Indian and Israeli technologies. First part will be the Israeli technologies, actually, 6 which have been meticulously chosen of the new technologies which we have to offer in the international arena. We have done this, as some of you may remember, with Prime Minister Abe in the past, with President Obama, with President Hollande of France, etc. And we will be doing that, of course, with Prime Minister Modi. And later, rather a few less, but nonetheless Indian technologies, same place. And lunch. Lunch will be held with the heads of some of the major conglomerates and concerns in India. On the one hand, and on the other hand, some of the major conglomerates and concerns of Israel together to be about, I think, 50 or so people, maybe a little bit more, on both sides of the table, really, there will be established the CEO forum between Israel and India, which will govern to a large extent the economic relations as we move forward, which is, of course, a crucial part of the relationship between Israel and India. I think I'll stop there and be happy to take questions and answers. I do want to say just one thing, if I might, in conclusion. The Foreign Ministry has really placed enormous emphasis on this visit. It's something which we really are quite excited about, and as I look at the Indian side, I must say that I'm quite proud as well and pleased to see that the Indian Foreign Ministry has taken out, for example, a very, very wonderful video clip of the relationship between India and Israel, something which I subscribe to every word that was in it. And I think that on both sides, both India and Israel, we view the importance of this visit more or less in the same light. We think it's a symbol of what's going on right now, but no less important to where we can go, where we will be going, in all the fields that I've mentioned, and much more, which I'll be happy to take questions on later. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, we will have now a statement by Ambassador Danny Carmona, our ambassador to India, and later on questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Director General, Mark, dear friend, and it's a real pleasure and significance to have an ex-ambassador to India together with me and as our headquarters here in Jerusalem. I think it gives some impetus to what we are all doing as the implementers of the policy of the Foreign Service and the Foreign Ministry in India. It was said that the importance of the visit is in the fact that it is happening. As Mark has said, it is true to say on every visit, this particular visit, I feel this phrase is significant even more, especially to all those who have followed during all those years the very special and unique relationship between India and Israel. When you go back 25 years ago, and we are of course celebrating 25 years of relationship, and the trajectory of these relations have been remarkable and very unique, culminating in what we feel that is a peak in those relations nowadays, specifically in the last 3 years, and of course the visit will be the peak of the peaks. We should be looking both on the historical side of things, but also giving a snapshot of what is the picture of our relationship today, and look forward to the next 25 years, so to speak, in a wide variety of disciplines that we have been developing in our relationship with India. When we look at the instruments that we have in our hands to implement this diplomacy, I think that we are representing a new kind of diplomacy, a diplomacy which is not only the regular traditional contacts between ministries of foreign affairs. We, as the Israeli representations in India, and we have the embassy and 2 consulates, as you all know, are looking at the priorities of the government of India, and they are looking at our priorities, and we are mixing a joint table in which it's not only about a political debate, it's not only about the traditional diplomacy, but we are definitely the implementers of developmental diplomacy, economic diplomacy, digital diplomacy, and so many other disciplines in which the priorities are meeting on a joint table. And the best manifestation of this, of course, is in agriculture, with our 15 centers of excellence. And I see so many familiar faces from India. I know that some of our friends from the media in Israel also are aware of the fact that both governments have been developing through Mashav, the Israeli Agency for International Development Cooperation, a wonderful project in which centers of excellence serve as demonstration centers, training centers, as a G2G endeavor. Part of what we want to deliver after this visit is to go beyond the G2G, to integrate the private sector, to not to have 15 or 25 or 30 centers, but hundreds of centers that would be using the model of what we have now. As Mark has said, water would be on the top of our agenda. And in the same way, we have identified, together with our counterparts in the Indian government, and we have a wonderful rapport and engagement with all the branches of the Indian government, identified those areas in which each side has a comparative advantage and can join hands together with the other side. The name of the game and the uniqueness on those relations is the fact that it's a cooperation, and none other than, we're not talking about assistance, we're not talking about one side knowing better than the other. We really join hands, making use of our strength in order to develop the joint venture, if I may say, at this stage on the governmental side, encouraging private sector to enter in all the areas that we are going to develop. And I think I'll stop here, and of course be very happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. Please, sir. Do we? Please, could you please stand up and identify yourself?
My name is I'm an editor of Indian World Magazine and India Rights Network, supporting focus on international affairs. Excellency, as you rightly said, this is a hugely transformative moment.
I beg your pardon?
Excellency,
And Here's word from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu himself right before he gets set to welcome Prime Minister Modi to Tel Aviv.
מחר יגיע לישראל נרנדרה מודי ידידי, ראש ממשלת הודו, הדמוקרטיה הגדולה ביותר בעולם. וזהו ביקור היסטורי וראשון של ראש ממשלה של הודו בישראל אחרי 70 שנה. וזה ביטוי לכך שהיחסים בינינו לבין הודו הולכים ומתהדקים בשנים האחרונות. זה פרי מדיניות יזומה.